just like a FERPA thing for us. So yeah.
Well, hey, cool. Thank you everyone for joining this morning. I want to kick things off. My name is Brent Lundstrom. I'm director of the Cybersecurity Center of Excellence. We're hosted at Whatcom Community College, and we are a statewide entity focused on spearheading cybersecurity pathways and creating opportunities for the community and technical college students across Washington state to advance their cybersecurity careers and support our faculty and system in accelerating cybersecurity. So without further ado, I want to just share a few updates before we jump into the presentation today. So I want to thank everyone for joining, and we want this to also to be an interactive session and have you share updates from your side if there's time, share your perspective, share what's needed. But please don't hesitate to leverage the chat. We'll be monitoring that, and then pipe in when there's opportunities for questions. So first things first, wanted to highlight that we applied for a NIST RAMPS grant. RAMPS stands for Regional, I can't remember the exact term, but it's essentially a grant that the NICE NIST group has put out to stimulate cybersecurity workforce development in improving multiple partnerships across the region. And we have designed what we feel was a really compelling grant application. We're partnering up with the Northwest Educational Service District 189, Whatcom Community College, and we also have some key industry partners with Microsoft and Tech. Some of the things that we're doing with this grant is to expand cybersecurity awareness. We've been hosting a couple of these career awareness workshops where we bring in counselors and academic advisors to just talk about cybersecurity and what some of the resources are available. And it's been really helpful to a lot of educators in the K through 12 space, as well as those programs that actually do have cybersecurity programs and wanting to guide students towards their career paths in that way. So we are looking for host locations to bring more of these workshops. So if you're interested, please hit me up, post the call, and we'd love to chat more about bringing one of these 2 to 3 hour workshops to your location. We're also working with a regional community practice to develop dual credit and align pathways with the K through 12 group, and trying to increase enrollments from the high schools into the community college system. And we're continuing that work and supporting that with the local Northwest ESD. And then last but not least, we're developing some micro-credentials in partnership with Tech and Microsoft on AI security analyst and cloud security analyst. So really excited about this grant, and we want to make this just kind of a pilot within the Northwest region, but also bring it across the state. So real excited about that advancement that we've got. Next up, we will be releasing a gap analysis here in the next few weeks to a month on just a number of candid conversations that we've had with K-12, community and technical colleges and industry about some of the gaps that we're seeing across the system, and areas of opportunities that we can improve the center's future initiatives, but also make some recommendations system-wide. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, so looking forward to the release of that project. And then lastly, I just wanted to highlight that we do have professional development funds Many of you have taken advantage of these. So these are professional development funds available for community and technical college faculty that may want to teach cybersecurity. So while we have a lot of cybersecurity faculty on here, I don't want to limit it just to the cybersecurity faculty. If you have people that are in IT or that want to get more cyber enabled, these funds are available and they can be used to cover conferences, training. We've been partnering up with WASTIC to develop some of the courses in networking and cybersecurity. So if you're wanting to like maintain your CCNA or those types of things. Yeah. So I guess just a little bit of a backstory. I went to Black Hat and DEF CON this year, and my mission really was to go out and talk to as many cybersecurity vendors as I could to just to figure out what are the tools and resources that some of these major cybersecurity companies are have, but that our college students would need to be trained up on as they enter into the field. And the area that jumped out at me is bug bounty programs. And I met some of the folks at Bugcrowd at DEF CON. If you haven't been to Black Hat and DEF CON, it's amazing. It's really a great way to get updated on what's happening in cybersecurity. Yeah, it's really the heart of the industry for that event, and that happens in August. So if you want to apply for cybersecurity professional development funds and want to use it that way, that'd be something I'd recommend. But yeah, I'm really excited to introduce Link Clark, and he is the Hacker Success Manager at Bugcrowd. He leads development and support of college ethical hacking programs. And he's been scaling the initiative from 0 to 30 programs while driving cross-functional projects that expand ethical hacking talent for the platform. So without further ado, I'm going to let Link just further introduce himself and take the reins here. So Link, floor is yours.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Brent. Thanks, Nicole, for setting this up. You can always tell, I feel like when you come into these presentations, if you're looking at the slides and you're like, oh, nodding your head, you're like, this is awesome. Congrats on the grant. That's a big deal. And the micro-credential approach. I think there's a big future in those for sure. Like Brent said, Link Clark, Hacker Success Manager at Bugcrowd. I think just a quick background on like where the college program came from that I helped develop for us. We'll dive deeper into what Bugcrowd is, but in essence, we connect ethical hackers with companies that, may need a little extra assistance on the security side in finding vulnerabilities in their assets, right? So what I saw was sort of a market problem from a business perspective, where it's like, oh, if we keep seeing the same 400 plus hackers submitting vulnerabilities, but our customer base continues to grow, we're going to have a real labor problem. And this should hit home with y'all. And we need to have more hackers joining this program, learning how to hack ethically, and how are we doing that? And I got a lot of not clear answers. So I was like, well, I know the vast majority of colleges that have cybersecurity programs have cybersecurity clubs. So I just started reaching out to them. And saying, hey, would you like to hear from an ethical hacker? And the answer was yes. And so that's kind of where it began. So that's just a bit of a background. I used to be in education for many years, wanted to sort of expand my horizons and my paycheck a little bit. So I started to pivot into tech. I was at Google for a while. I got into the security space at Google because I was like, oh, this is kind of fascinating because it's one of those wonderful spaces where it's a mix of humans and technology, right? Like at the end of the day, it's very much a human problem when you think about it. And that has always interested me, just like education, right? Like this way that we can help people, train people up, and support them on their path. And so anyway, I got into internal security education at Google, pivoted, went over to Bugcrowd, and started the college program. So that's just a little bit about me. And I do want this to be interactive. So if you want to throw a question, by all means, hopefully Brent or Nicole can keep an eye on that for me. And then we'll obviously have time at the end to dive deeper. So bug bounty program sounds pretty self-explanatory. If you find something, you get paid for finding it. It's pretty straightforward in that sense. Like we exist though because it's not always so simple, right? Because as you can imagine, it's an exchange. Like I found something, I think it's worth $1 million. You say it's worth $500,000. Like there's a lot of nuance there that we have to work through, and that's kind of where we exist as a platform. Essentially, customer on board, and TripAdvisor's they're one of our public, they have a public program with this. I'll just use them. So TripAdvisor comes on board with us. They say, hey, these assets, www.tripadvisor.com, everything wide open. We want to like really find out what's going on here because we're nervous about, some of the updates we have to our software coming down the line. And then we'll put it up on our platform. Hackers will join. If you have a Bugcrowd profile, you can all create one now. It's free. You could go see that TripAdvisor program and say, okay, here are the rules. These are the things I need to do in order to participate in that, right? And that's very important that you follow it because our platform is also like showing the traffic. You're using your profile to like interact with their assets. And so we can see like what's going on and make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, because that's one of the things that happens sometimes too. And then it's all under what's called safe harbor. So you'll see on the program, like this company has agreed, like we're not going to prosecute you because we asked you to come help us, right? Like, so everybody knows there's not going to be any ill will. It's all fair game. And then the hacker goes into the assets and starts to like dig around. Some use automated tools. Some are like manual recon. Like for using myself as an example, I've been working on what's called broken access control. And if you're familiar with the OWASP top 10, that's number one. And like what's good about those from a beginner perspective is it's a lot of like manually changing things like, oh, let me change this cookie to see what that will do and that kind of thing. And so the hacker will just hunt and figure out what they can break. And if they can break anything, then they just need to essentially submit a vulnerability report. And that's where we'll get to that a little bit later. That's where a ton of learning can happen from a newbie's perspective, because what you're doing is writing up, this is what I found, this is how you recreate it. And most importantly, this is why it matters from a business standpoint. That gets sent to our triage team. And just like it sounds like, they're like, figuring out what happened, if it's a legitimate one, verifying it, and then sending it to the customer and say, hey, like you need to fix this. This is real. This is how you can recreate it. And they send it to their engineering team so they can correct that. Yeah, that's the gist. And then once the customer agrees, like, okay, then what we have is called a vulnerability rating taxonomy. And that's essentially an agreement. We work on it a few times every year where we say, oh, like broken access control, I gained access to private PII. That's a problem. As a, TripAdvisor, for example, they wouldn't want people to have access to that. So that would be classified as a P1, which means the most critical and therefore the most valuable. So, P1s range anywhere from, 2,500 up to millions of dollars if you're talking about blockchain companies, right? Because at the end of the day, blockchain is contingent on trust. So for them, anything that can potentially take trust away from their offering is going to be a huge problem. So the way that I pitch this to students is pretty straightforward. This isn't like a sales thing. Like there are multiple platforms that students can join. I obviously prefer that they would join Bugcrowd initially. You can get that stickiness of like, that's your first one that you go to, you tend to develop a habit around it. And so then you keep going back to it. But what's most important, and this is where like a lot of our intro presentations support this, is like, how do you go from a CTF to manage bug bounty? And more importantly, why? CTFs are created environments, right? It's a gamification of like vulnerability. And so like when you're diving into real life production code, even if you don't find anything, you start to develop these habits of like, oh, I see what they're doing with this infrastructure, right? Like I see how this company's approaching this issue, and you start to like learn how security vulnerabilities can function. And that's one of my initial pitches to folks, is like, I can guarantee you, if you're going into your first interview after you graduate and you're able to talk about a vulnerability you found ideally, or even one that you read up on, that's going to give you a lot more like cachet in your interview process than simply talking about a CTF that you won, in my opinion. So yeah, the rewards, obviously they find those very attractive because as a college student, actually any of us wouldn't mind a few extra $1,000, I imagine. Those can vary too pretty significantly. So I'd mentioned P1, you're talking about the thousands, down to P5 is what's called informational. That the first bug I ever found was a P5 because it was like, oh, this is great that you found it, but like it actually doesn't have any real business impact. Like the company is not going to worry too much about it. And then P4, P3, P21, and like those can be $50 again, all the way up to the thousands of dollars. You go to the next slide for me, please. Thanks. All right, so the getting back to like how we're pitching it to the students and bringing industry on board. I've heard from multiple SOC teams that like the ramp up period, the onboarding period for new graduates is just a lot longer than it needs to be. And so one of the ways that we're sort of pitching this to professors and departments beyond the cybersecurity clubs is like we have the chance to support your soon to be graduates and like having a much shorter onboarding period when they get out into the business world if they're familiar with what's happening in today's landscape in terms of vulnerabilities. Um, uh, let's see. So the internship piece is fascinating right now in the cybersecurity space because it's pretty tight. And what we pitched this past summer and we worked with UC Berkeley on was creating sort of a loose internship where sorry, my kids just got home from school. Just give me 1 second. I can close the door. We created a sort of a loose internship. And in essence, what I did was bring in a couple of my full-time hackers because there are plenty of people that do this full time. And we set up workshops where they sort of upskilled, they did some training during the week, and then they would be able to come in with questions with the full-time hacker, and then the hacker would walk them through some of the OWASP top 10 vulnerability strategies, like when you're going into an asset. And then we had an ed tech company that was part of this grant that we received from UC Berkeley, who was the main asset that we were going after, and it worked out really well. I can send the article afterwards, but it was a success. I think the challenge with this approach is like it's not a traditional internship model where you're going and sitting at a desk, right? Like it required a lot of independence on the part of the quote unquote interns, and that like I met with them in the beginning. I made sure that they were showing up to meet with the hacker and then periodically just did some check-ins. But other than that, it was really them kind of constructing like, what do I want to take from this opportunity over the summer in terms of developing my cybersecurity, my like ethical hacking skill sets. And it turned out pretty well. So again, these are all pilots, right? Like all the programs that I'm mentioning here are things that I've just created, listened to folks like yourselves in terms of where your needs are, and then found out how we can work together to upskill the next generation of ethical hackers. So if any of this sounds like something of interest to you, please let me know. If you have ideas, please let me know. I want this to be like a chance for us to figure out how to help each other. Because at the end of the day, in my experience, when industry works with academia, like really good things can happen if we support one another and kind of sort of living in silos. So jump to the next slide for me, please. Skill sets. So again, the pitch to both the professors and the students are pretty straightforward. Like when you go into TripAdvisor's code, you're going to really start to see what they're doing in terms of how they're setting up their defenses, how they're not setting up their defenses, what bypasses may be there. And like it really gives the student a wonderful chance to like, I think, demystify what they will be doing in terms of like, it was a software engineer that put this together. Like they may have missed some steps, right? Or maybe the SOC team was not paying attention that day or whatever it is. Like in my mind, it helps them build confidence at the end of the day. It gets back to my days teaching. Like so much of of where I found my students' success was helping them just realize that this is something they can do. And so, unlike CTFs, like actually going out and seeing real life production code helps students realize, like, oh, this is something that I'm capable of doing. And then I've had several students who actually were just software engineers that joined the cybersecurity club so they could improve their coding and sort of secure coding by design from the outset, like how to be a better developer by thinking about security so you're not getting into a fight with the security team at the end when you're trying to push out your code, you know? So there's like benefits from all levels. And then obviously like command line, Linux, all the usual tools that you'll start to embrace potentially sooner and build the habits. And most of the cyber security community, like the hacking community that I've interacted with, is extremely supportive and willing to share the tools, open source tools that they build for others to use. And you know, if you do have the chance to go to DEF CON, you'll witness this. Like it's just a very, very strong community. You can go to the next one. Thanks. So the key here for like the steps we generally take, the students will put together a profile on Bugcrowd. Like I said, it's really straightforward. It's free. They can download Kaido, is one of the proxy tools that exists, similar to Burp Suite, but it's their main competitor. We've been working with them on modules, so I again recommend them. And I actually like Kaido Pro because if they use their student email address, it's free, which is really cool. And then again, the first module we like to push is the broken access control one, because like I said, it's sort of the ironically, it's the lowest barrier of entry for a new hacker, but number one on OWASP top 10. So that's the sort of the assessment we're working on. We're working with a couple universities right now, building out an assessment for the module. And one of the most important pieces I was arguing for in the assessment is making sure that students can understand the why. Like, why is OWASP put broken access control at the top? And think about it from a business perspective. Because again, if you're going into your interview to be a cybersecurity analyst, you need to know like why these matter from a business standpoint, in my mind. And that's again what I've heard from industry, right? Like they're not going to worry about like a week, you know, like those P4s and P5s as much. Like the reason they're paying that money is because that's where they're most vulnerable from a financial standpoint. So, yeah. So the process varies. We can go from anywhere, just like an introductory talk with a hacker to the club, to like I said, now we're working with a couple universities where we're dropping into actual courses. We just had a hacker present at the Technical University of Dublin today. Very excited about that one because they have a very strong master's program that he's supporting, and kind of work on the module. Like the hacker will give a little homework's a loose term, but like say, you know, make sure you set up the proxy, which they typically already do. Maybe a couple tools if the hacker uses those. If they don't, it's no problem. Do a couple labs. Like TryHackMe has good labs. Hack the Box, obviously. You know, there's tons of material out there. And then they come in and actually do some hands-on hacking with the ethical hacker. And go to the next one, please. Um, the Chris here is one of the people that we've used for quite a bit and had the chance to interview with Nicole. So what's cool about him is his story is, I think, one that you'll see oftentimes. He was I think studying networking. He heard about bug bounty, started to study at night. He told himself, I'll just use the free proxy, and then if I make enough money, I'll buy the more advanced proxy tool. And he slowly chipped away at it, and eventually like, oh, made 500, made 1,000. And then I think the best part for you all to hear in terms of anecdote from Chris is when he interviewed at his first role as a pen tester, he used his experience bug bounty hunting while in an undergrad to level up. So he would have come in as an intro level pen tester, and he said, no, like these are the vulnerabilities. He showed the you know, who would be his manager, his experience, and he was then became an L4 instead of an L3, right? And so like he was able to use that experience he found and apply it to his first role, which is impressive. And he still hunts quite a bit. I think he's in the top 100 with us still. So he stays very, very busy because he's a pen tester during the day and a hacker at night. And you see that that's pretty common. And so Chris is one of the hackers that will present. Again, like I said, we have like that intro presentation. He's done a couple hands-on, like where he'll walk through two things. He can either walk through a vulnerability report that he's done and kind of show you like, oh, this is what I did, this is what I did. Or the ones that I really like are the ones that are like, he'll do a bit of recon before the meeting and then like kind of take the students up to the point and then let them go and let them be the ones that actually discover it, submit the vulnerability and you know, earn the cash as it is. In that vein, sorry, just a quick one off. We're doing some work with a club at the University of New Brunswick in Canada. They have a presentation next week, and what we're going to do for them is focus on a vulnerability disclosure program. So those are the ones that don't actually pay you typically. That's more of like a see something, say something, like a, oh, you know, like we appreciate all your help. What's nice about those is hackers, the pros typically stay away from them because they don't get paid. And so what that means is that there's some juicier apples still like hanging low on the tree that you can get access to, which is a great learning point. But the reason I bring that up is I'm going to personally like still be able to pay the hackers that work on those just out of my budget, like 50 bucks, $100, just to like, you know, entice them to get an understanding of like, oh, okay, like this is the real money. This is something that's important. And the VDPs too, like can act as a motivator in a different way, more like extrinsic motivation. Because NASA, for example, is one of our customers. They'll actually send you a really cool like letter. And it's like NASA letterhead and like, hey, you helped us secure, you know, NASA assets, and we really appreciate it. Which is, if you look on LinkedIn, you can actually find some people that have posted those, which is really, really cool in my opinion. And the state of Maryland actually just joined on, and they're doing a VDP as well. And so that's I'm gonna hopefully see if I can find a couple of universities there so that they can act on the state of Maryland's assets, which is another cool opportunity. Cool. Next one, please. Yeah. Again, I'm really hoping to like hear from you all to like where your programs are, how you think we could work together on this, because in essence, the community is very strong, the ethical hacking community. They love to give back. Um, they like what we're doing because I'm paying them out of my budget to help them essentially be teachers, right? So we can scale this to upskill more uh, the next generation hackers, and the students love it because they're gaining skills that one will help them in their careers, and two potentially earn them some cash now, which everybody likes, and the schools like it too because it's something just a little bit different, right? Like again, labs are great, CTS are fun, but like having the chance to say your students are actually out there like working on real life production code, breaking down like what industry is doing right now is extremely valuable, especially when you think about it from a marketing standpoint, to say like, hey, our students are out there like doing the work right now, securing these assets of American companies. So
So,
I'd love to hear. Yeah.
so Link, so just a clarification. So the programs that we set up with other colleges are is that basically students go in, they set up their profile, and then they have kind of the world of access to other bug bounty programs that are established by industry that they can participate in and try to search for? Is that one component, or are we sort of talking about how students can go in and assess the vulnerabilities of their own college institution?
That's a great question. So that the latter that you mentioned is something that our sales team. I'm not on the sales side. I support hackers, right, and upskill hackers. The sales
Yeah.
team has started to offer that. So essentially, what they've done is they've gone to state governments, universities, and said, "Hey, like this is the chance for you as an institution to embrace this concept of like the crowd and ethical hackers are real. So you can embrace them and allow them to like harden your assets, and it can be your own students." And that's definitely picked up steam. I will say, like to be candid, like it takes leadership within those institutions to like be fairly brave, it might be the right word, like, you know, like not risk averse. How about that? Because they're the first blush of like, whoa, we're gonna let our students hack on our assets is like, I think that can be intimidating to some academic leaders, but others are willing to give it a go. So like that's definitely an opportunity, but that would have to be me connecting you with the sales folks, because then sales, you know, wants that institution to be a customer of ours, right? Versus if you're just working with me, like University of Michigan is doing these workshops on it's a public program, so I can mention it, Atlassian, right? Um, their security leader happened to be an alum from Michigan, and so like it was a great serendipitous moment where like they were super excited to get some fresh eyes on their assets, because that's the other thing. It's like we're called Bugcrowd for a reason. Like the crowd is strong. Like as a group of hackers, like you're able to find more vulnerabilities than just as a single person, right? And that's the cool thing about the workshop model is they actually get to collaborate together. And for a lot of the programs, they allow collaboration. So I would say, for example, like I'm working on this, I would loop in Brent, click the button, and he and I would submit it and share the payout that way. But it's you just find a lot of people like collaborating because your strength may be in this part and mine is in this part, but together we're, you know, much greater uh, team, if you will.
Yeah, I mean that we hear a lot about like hacking groups, right? To hacking teams. So
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Uh, so I guess I'm just sort of curious. You know, I imagine that one of the bigger components of this experience for students is the report writing, right? How do you present to an employer or you know, like the reasons why this was actually a vulnerability and having to convince them? That's got to be a big component of the experience that students are going to get out of this. Would you agree?
absolutely. And that's, yeah, Chris, you know, when he gives his presentations, that's one of the ways he says in the beginning he learned a great deal was just going and finding public reports and like breaking them down. So if he's focused on broken access control or whatever he was doing, he would find reports around that, read what the hacker had done. And it's a wonderful way to learn. And then again, as you know, as educators, like your ability to explain to someone else how to recreate this shows your understanding. And that's why I like it as an assessment format. When talking about, you know, when we're coming into the courses and supporting the professors, because it's like you can't really fake it. Like you would have to do step by step, explain one, how you did it, and then two, again, prepping you for your interviews, why that matters to the business. So like I got an invite to a Australian banking um, company. And like again, when you're from a hacker's perspective, you're like, oh, what's going to matter to them? Like, and so I started like, going and trying to mess with like logins and like, would I be able to log in as someone else if I like, you know, essentially again back to broken access control because I'm a newbie, but like if I log in myself, can I move over and horizontally like access something else, right? Like because that means I'm potentially getting into somebody else's finances, which would be extremely valuable. And they're P1, something like that would be a P1, and then you're talking about, I think the payouts for that were like 6 grand or something like that. So, but me being able to explain in the write-up like why this matters because I had access to another customer's financial data, right? Like that's huge versus, you know, something like farther down the critical vulnerability scale. It's not going to be that big of a deal, and therefore they're not going to pay that much attention to it because you can't show. And this happens a lot when you read the reports or when I read disputes between the hackers and our triage team. It's like, well, you didn't show like what you could do with that, or you didn't show the impact that that vulnerability would have on this customer's assets. Like why the why part, and a lot of people just aren't very good at that. So it impacts like their ability to get paid.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, we've had a few colleges here in the state that have been actually hacked. And I think there could be some value in, you know, assessing some of the vulnerabilities of the colleges. I'm just kind of curious what some of my colleagues on here think about that concept. Is that something that would make sense? What's the vibe that maybe we would get from some of our IT directors and CIOs. Any thoughts out there?
I honestly think where he explained it as far as the skepticism from the administration is going to be, I think, the biggest roadblock. So I think it would take someone from outside to explain it to the administration before. Not, I don't think we could do any justice trying to explain it to our administration that we want our students to learn this process. Give us your network. Give us access to your network. So I mean, we already have problems trying to just get them. We already have issues trying to get them to allow a SOC, just a SOC access to help them out. So I think that's going to be the issue.
Do we hear that often? Yeah, that's not surprising.
Yeah. But on the other side of things, getting students enrolled in some of these bug bounty programs, like with Bugcrowd, and getting them started, what do you all think about the possibility there? I mean, I know a lot of our colleges have cybersecurity teams that compete at the PRCCDC and some of the national contests. Could this be, just an added component to that group, in terms of training or supplemental? What do you all think?
Did you feed the wolf? Oh, okay. She was looking at me like she had been fed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I will definitely check it out. As a way, I mean, especially if students are able to, as individuals, sort of separate from the school, I guess, if they can just as individuals connect up and get that experience, I think that would be great. I just don't know I guess I just don't know. I'd have to check with someone in the department about, like what kind of involvement actually we could have. Have to figure that out. I think that's something we have to ponder. But yeah, for the PRCCDC for sure. Like if they can sign up on their own and get experience that way, that's just, it's another tool for students to get that experience.
If you'd like us to just come in and do like the introductory talk, not me, one of the hackers, and then they can talk about their career. We have one of the things that I think is great about having them present to classes on career track is a lot of them are self-taught. So like they'll use some foundational knowledge they got in some other like networking or something like that, and then expand and kind of find their path that way. And I'd be happy to connect you with one of those, and they can do the career piece and then also a little bit on like how to get started. I have one hacker, he's Canadian. He does a great one on like how to go from CTS to bug bounties, and he's really really energetic. And he can even, depending on the level of your courses, like we've expanded beyond just web app, and he also does LLM hacking, which if that's not on your resume going forward, like just having a familiarity with LLMs and AI, then that's something to address quickly, right? Like that's definitely the future. So we're doing LLM, we have hardware, like we've expanded beyond just simple web app hacking stuff too. So if you just need some people to talk, we can also just provide that too.
That's great. Thank you.
Christy, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So I work with Chris, and so we're both coaches for teams and stuff like that in our department. And I worked with our students who are in we have defensive teams, but we also had a team that was like, woo, oh no, oh my goodness, what are we gonna do? Because they were on an offensive team, and they were like, wow, it'd be really cool if we could participate in bug bounties or stuff like that. So I've actually gotten feedback from students about being able to get them to connect it with stuff like that. And I'm also one of the faculty mentors of our cybersecurity club. And so I know we would really benefit from bringing in someone to talk to the students. And we have a couple different classes, I think, where we would benefit bringing in someone to talk to students about stuff like that. And we have a couple of courses, for example, where participating in something like that would be beneficial. Or at the very least, like we were just saying, through the clubs, which is where the students who want to do the extracurricular activities are like, yeah, well, I want to jump into stuff like that. So I think that stuff could be really cool.
Great. Yeah, let me know. And if, again, you know, I briefly mentioned the sort of the internship idea. If that's something that you want to like, if any of you want to explore a little bit further, you know, my pitch to my leadership was like next summer, potentially using some of my budget to like provide an hourly rate, but then also like, but encourage like a group to team up, and then, you know, they share the bounties that they find together, but like, again, with the support of a coach, right? Like a full-time hacker that can kind of support them over the summer. And then, you know, whether the sort of the product of the internship is them kind of walking through a portfolio of vulnerabilities, or, you know, some kind of, I'm not sure. Like, again, I'm happy to like talk through these kind of ideas with you. From my perspective, I just think there's a ton of untapped talent, and like the internship market is just not great. And so I think there's a way we could work together to kind of fill that gap that exists.
I think that also sounds cool. I also work with our intern type people.
A good person to know, Christina.
I just want to say I love that you're bringing this down over to, I want to say down, over to the community college crowd from the university crowd, sort of elevating and bringing community college on par with universities, and in terms of what the students can do, what they're capable of, and what opportunities can be open to them.
For sure. I've been to two in my long academic career, so I'm a big fan, a believer in what they're capable of. And cybersecurity is a very democratic industry. Like if you learn the stuff, like there's no faking it. And so I think that's why it's also important too. So like they have the opportunity. You don't have to go to Harvard to be good at this. So no offense to Harvard.
Great point. I guess one question I have that I'm sort of thinking about is are there organizations in Washington State that we could look at that do have bug bounty programs that our students could get involved in? And maybe that could be a shoe-in to some of these organizations. You know, say Starbucks has a bug bounty program, and we have students locally that are supporting that. Then new positions open up there. They've got a great kind of portfolio that they've established on, hey, here's what I've done with Starbucks specifically, right? Is there a way to take a look at that? Or I'm not really sure how the platform works, but what are your thoughts there?
For sure. And that's one of my dreams. Again, back to the like industry and academia working together. And that's why I was excited when the workshops at Michigan connected with Atlassian, because their alum was there. Like, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that, especially for companies that want to do a little bit of that, like, oh, this is where we're headquartered. We want to support the people in this area, right? And so I'm trying to think. I don't know that you could necessarily, I'll have to double check, search by like based, like the company's based in Washington State, for example. But like you can definitely search like our platform for specific companies. You can search by industry. But if that's something that you think would be helpful, I'm happy to do that that work on my end, because I can figure that out, you know, by next week, no problem, like where the customers are based. And if there's a list, and then like, you know, start to do a little bit of networking there, especially if you all have connections too.
Yeah. I saw Michelle Robinson had her hand raised. So Michelle?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. Well, yeah. So I'm with the National Cybersecurity Training and Education Center hosted here at Whatcom. So I'm part of Whatcom Community College also with Brent. But we represent over currently over 500 academic member institutions, and so I would definitely like to follow up with you about how we might have a presentation to that group in one of our monthly member meetings. I think, and most of them are community colleges. So again, to just really raise awareness about this opportunity to them and a larger community across the nation. So yeah, I'd love to have a follow-up with you.
Great.
Awesome. We'll certainly make an introduction.
And again, to reiterate, like if you have ideas, sorry to interrupt, Brent, like are things you think we could try, I'm happy to hear, because this really started from nothing, and like we're really building it as we go. And at the end of the day, you're the ones working in schools, hearing what is needed, where the interests are. So like I want to adjust to what those needs are. So there's probably things that I've missed that I would like to hear from you all on that we could potentially pilot. Because at the end of the day, we do a small pilot, it works, I can show my bosses like the impacts it has, then we can really create something together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great. Any other thoughts from folks, questions, comments?
Yeah, just thank you. Sounds like a great opportunity. So I'm looking forward to talk to Link at some point.
Yeah, and if questions come up later, by all means, reach out, link.clark@bugcrowd.com. I think they'll probably send out the details. Feel free to get connected. I think Nicole put a note in there as well. So
Hey, thanks, Link. I was looking at the website and I was just wondering, for somebody who's new to this, what would you recommend, just to go to the getting started button and to learn about the program?
well, my program's not really on the website just yet, because we just did a relaunch. So if you're just wanting to learn generally about Bugcrowd, the company, there's loads of information on there. If you want to like start digging into like how to get started with ethical hacking, I can send over some resources if you'd like. It just depends on what exactly you'd like to learn more about.
Hey, Link, one other thing that I just thought of, during some of our initial conversations, you mentioned that there's some curriculum that you're working on. Is that right? You wanted to talk just a little bit about that and how maybe our colleagues here could gain access to that, and what you're
Yeah, for sure. So Ido, one of the proxy companies that I mentioned, and Bugcrowd are working on modules essentially based on the OWASP top 10, so that we could offer this opportunity to actual courses. So the one at Technical University of Dublin today was in I think it's technically a pen testing class, but the hacker went in and presented on broken access control. Let's see, 2 weeks, we're doing one at a university in Maryland that'll also be on broken access control. Again, like we're starting with the sort of the lowest barrier to entry topics, and then we're going to try to go through all the OWASP top 10 and have those modules available. I can definitely send that over. So the idea is that it's just a PowerPoint, but the idea is the value comes from the hacker being able to walk through the PowerPoint and the presentation with the students. So I don't, from what I've heard from the hackers so far, because they own it's their IP, they're the ones that build out the decks. They're okay with just letting people have the deck, but like there's not much to it, right? Like it's pretty bare bones. Like the value comes in the hacker presenting, which, to be fair, is no cost to the universities. Like that's coming out of my budget, because again, like my purpose is to like figure out how we can upskill more people to do this so that our platform does better, and then actually overall, like it helps everyone.
Cool. All right. Any other updates from folks across the system here? Anyone needing support in certain ways? Just want to open it up for additional conversation. Mike, any updates you want to share from Insight or Michelle that you'd like our colleagues here to know about?
Oh, thanks for the opportunity, Brent. Just as I'm going to echo what Michelle was saying, we do have a monthly meeting as well. And our next one that's coming up is going to be on the Mescalero Indian tribe and how they have brought the cybersecurity programs into the tribe, and we have a panel discussion that'll be on November 17th, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but it'll be out on our events page. Yeah, you can register now.
You know, one way that you could make sure that you know the dates and everything to our colleagues here is you can become an Insight member. What are some of the benefits of becoming an Insight member, Mike, Michelle?
There are lots of I'm not sure if Michelle's on or can hear, but there are lots of reasons you'd want to become a member. As Michelle pointed out, we have over 500 institutions who are members currently, and we have over 9,000 individual members. So what we do is we connect you with a larger cybersecurity community across the nation. We also support the CAE community, the Centers of Academic Excellence. Several of the colleges on the call today have the CAE designation. We'd like to see more of those colleges throughout Washington State earn that designation. Again, that connects you with the NSA, connects you with a larger cybersecurity community, and we're really trying to bridge education and bridge education with the workforce. Because as you know, as we all know, the workforce, there are a lot of jobs that are available out there, but getting students those opportunities through internships or this bug bounty program is a way for them to gain the experience that they need to get to some of the jobs. Some of the other benefits include that we have travel stipends. We have a conference, our CIAD conference, Cybersecurity Across Disciplines, which occurs in June. So there's opportunities to attend those. We have, if you become a member, you have opportunities to become eligible for cybersecurity travel stipends and other travel and other opportunities. And if you have good topics and presentations, we'd love to invite you to apply for the CIAD conference and become a presenter out there. It really is, you don't have to know cybersecurity to attend the CIAD conference. We're really trying to promote cybersecurity across all disciplines. So those are some of the top reasons that I can offer. That I can offer. Michelle, do you have more?
Yeah, I'll just jump in. Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I couldn't unmute quick enough. But great job, Mike. Yeah, I'll just say we have 4 overarching goals with the Insight grant, and those surround student support. So we do support students in competitions and other activities, career exploration activities. We have a strong faculty professional development focus. So in addition to those that Brent may be offering, we have a large portfolio of those that you could take advantage of. And many of them are focused on the top industries asked for certifications. We also have curriculum resources, a number of repositories. The primary one is clark.center. If you haven't heard of that, check out our website. But and then also we are a connector and have a strong dissemination role. So if you have events and activities that are of benefit to the larger community, we can help disseminate that and get awareness out there about that through a number of our communication channels, and again, connect you with the right folks. For our industry member on here, I don't know how many other industry folks are on, but for Link, certainly there are benefits for working with us. We have some closely aligned, it sounds like from your presentation, some closely aligned goals and objectives. So I would love to connect with you to see how we might collaborate to strengthen the internship process that I too feel is a little weak at this point, and other things. So.
Gosh, membership must cost like $10,000-$20,000 a year, right? I mean, Insight
for
membership
us?
is free. Yeah, Insight memberships, all these benefits.
Currently, guess
expensive.
what? Currently, it's free. Yeah.
What?
So some of the faculty,
That's crazy.
some of the faculty professional development that we offer, the value is like $2,500 to $3,000 for a single boot camp. Is what you'd pay on the outside, and guess what? Yeah, it's free. Currently,
So if you're
right
not
now,
a
it's
member,
free.
you're missing out. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for sharing.
Brett.
Any other questions, comments before we close things out today? Well, Link, I just want to thank you again. You're calling from Edinburgh, Scotland. It's the end of your day on a Friday. Thank you so much for just carving out time for our community college system here in Washington State. We're really thrilled to have you, and hopefully we can make something come of this presentation and just plant that seed and see something grow, just like with our students. So thank you again for presenting with us today, and thanks everyone for joining. We'll make sure that this presentation recording is made available on our YouTube channel, and we'll send out the presentation via email to those that attended. So thanks again, everyone, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.